Thank you. Thanks for introducing me. Thanks for listening to my talk about how we implemented REST endpoints with Forge web triggers. The agenda for this talk is first shortly about us, who we are, the problem or problems we faced with implementing REST endpoints, and how we solved them. And finally, what are the key learnings or the things we learned from this implementation. So I think it's better. Okay, so yeah, I'm Jonas, one of the founders of IJ Solutions. The other one is sitting over there. So we are Ibrahim and Jonas, and so you know where the IJ is coming from. We are marketplace partners since 2019, had our 5th anniversary last year. We have 4 apps currently on the marketplace, all for DC and cloud. And especially today, I will also talk about project milestones and user absence planner, because those are the apps where we have implemented the REST endpoints. And we have been awarded Silver Marketplace Partner in 2023, which is something we are really proud of as a small team to get that partner level. So our requirement was, or we received from customers to provide REST API endpoints for our Forge apps. And these requirements came from different use cases the customers have. One was connection to external systems, like if you think for our app user absence planner, where you can define out of office times in Jira. And people wanted to connect the app with their internal HR system and using REST endpoints to get that connection. So this was one requirement. Another one would be load app data into reporting tools like EazyBI, for example. So we had the request for our other app, Project Milestones, to load data into these reporting tools to create reports about the milestones of a project that are created with the app, and also the issues linked to it. And therefore, there was a need for these connections via REST endpoints. Or another use case would be to run scripts on external systems to accomplish big tasks, like if you imagine you have an app that is adding macros to conference pages and you want to do that all at once for 1,000 pages, then something like a REST endpoint would be great to automate these tasks. And finally, using Jira automation to trigger endpoints. So you can call a webhook from an automation, and a use case would be that for the absence planner, again, if you have a workflow in Jira, where people can apply for an out-of-office time, then it could be approved via a workflow and then finally getting the absence created via the REST endpoint. To implement these features, functionalities, we had to look for a solution. And the problem was there is no module for implementation of REST endpoints in Forge. This would be an easy solution for that, but it's not available. So our solution was to use web triggers for that. And how we did that? So the first step is easy, just adding a web trigger to the manifest of the app so that it's available. Then we had to implement the functions in the backend. When you use web trigger, there's no user session, so all app functions that are run need to be run in the backend and also as app, so not as user. Third was securing the web triggers. I will talk about that in more details in a minute, because there's no built-in authentication, so we had to find our own solution for that. And finally, as all these URLs for the web triggers are unique for the instance the app is installed and also for the environment, we need to provide a UI for system administrators to retrieve those URLs and to use the APIs. So if we come to authentication, This is from the documentation of the work triggers, and as you can see, there's no built-in authentication. So we had to find our own way to get that achieved, to secure these web triggers, because having them published, and if someone who has not access to a certain instance gets these URLs, they can use it without logging in, and could be a problem. So at first we thought maybe we could use the Atlassian API token. So as a cloud user of Atlassian, you can create an API token. So we thought maybe we can use that to authenticate the user. But then we learned we had to ask Atlassian for permission to do that, to use these tokens. We did that, and then Atlassian told us, okay, it's no longer allowed. It was allowed in the past to get the permission to do that, but it's no longer possible. We had to find our own solution, and we used a library or a package called Crypto to create app-specific tokens. This Crypto package was quite straightforward, so we didn't have to change much compared to the documentation of the package. And we use it to generate our own API tokens for the app. In the UI, for system administrators, we have documented all the APIs that are available for the app. So you can see the app-specific endpoint that can be copied from that page. And also the different parameters that are required, or the body, in the case of a create request, for example, is provided in on these pages. And we have a certain tab for the API tokens. So their API tokens can be created using the async function of the Crypto package. And these tokens are displayed only once to the user, can be copied to somewhere else, and then will never be shown again. And these tokens are also stored in the secret storage of Forge, so they are secure and only valid for the one user that's creating it. Now, what happens when someone calls the API? So there's a request from the user to the app. And the first thing is what we do is we check the authentication. So the user has to authenticate with his Atlassian account email and the token we just have seen. And we check in the app, the first thing is this token valid, and is it related to the user calling the API? If that is not the case, we return for a 1, so the user is unauthorized, and you can't use the app with that authentication. Next, we run some formal checks regarding the request method. Is it correct? Are all required parameters there? Is the body format correct in case of a creation request? And also if all body parameters are available. If that fails for some reason, we return either 400, 4 or 5, 4 or 4. 4 or 4, as an example, when someone wants to edit something, and so there needs to be ID provided for the item to edit. If it's not found, or if a project not found where something needs to be edited, then we return a failure. Then we also have app permissions. So access to the apps can be defined by system administrators, and app access can be limited to certain users or groups. And if a user with no access to the app calls such an API, we return no access for 3. If all these checks are passed and everything is fine, we run the function as said. Everything has to be run in the backend as app. And then based on the request, we return 200, 201, or 204. Yeah, so this was how we built it. And what we learned was it is possible to create these REST APIs with Forge using web triggers. It's a possible way of implementation. But we can't use the default Atlassian authentication, so the Atlassian API token. We had to build our own solution. Did that with crypto and the app-specific tokens. And as said, there's no user session, so everything has to be run in backend, and we can't run the requests as users. So we also have to consider all the permissions the user has, and if something fails, we have to return an error. So it was great to have that achieved, but at the beginning of the year, we had to learn that this prevents our apps from being eligible for runs on Atlassian. All our apps are in Forge, so they are basically fine. But web triggers are excluded. So we had to find or make a trade-off. Either we remove that functionality for customers, get eligible for runs on Atlassian, or we don't get the badge, but keep the endpoints. There is an EAP where we signed up. It's no egress web triggers. That could be a solution. But for now, it is only for parts of the APIs, because this is only possible when the response of the endpoint is static. So if we return a 200 to a 1, that's fine. But if we consider the endpoints where we return dynamic data from the app, like user absences, for example, they look different for every user. And they are not covered by these EAP, and so are still not eligible for runs on Atlassian. So yeah, we are still looking for a solution, and I've talked to some guys here at Atlas Camp to find a solution. Hopefully we will get them. And yeah, we haven't decided. Maybe we will remove these web triggers for a short period of time until we have a solution. But for now, this is an option, at least, to get the badge, even if you have web triggers in your app. So yeah, thanks for listening. I'm open for questions.